and I'm sure everyone's mildly irritated by my joy of, can you make me an original character class? I want my own subclass, Matt, please.
Welcome to the Character Sheet, comicbook.com's official home for all things fantasy and tabletop. Today, I am joined by a very special guest. He is one of the cast members of Critical Role. He is the co-creator of Candela Obscura. I am joined by the immortal Taliesin Jaffe. Hello.
Hi. Good afternoon.
yes. Good afternoon. How are you doing today? How is the office treating you, as I see that you are literally on set?
It's wonderful. We're busy all the time. So and I love this set. I could live here.
I mean, I just always assumed that they were filming in your living room.
I mean, that's the goal eventually, is not to film in my living room, but for my living room to look like this. This is the dream.
Yeah.
But actually, I think there's a poster for our most recent for the Crimson Mirror, and that is actually that is the goal, I will say, very specifically.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, I have wanted to chat with you about Candela Obscura for a very long time because you are the co-creator of Candela Obscura. It sprung from your mind along with Chris Lockey. So my first question is, what inspired Candela Obscura? Where did it come from?
The original inspiration for this started, so many years ago. It's hard to even think clearly about it anymore. 2019. It started with we did a Call of Cthulhu game, if I recall, the Crystal Palace, and I've kind of always had a problem. I just call it a problem. I've always had a problem with cosmic horror, which is that most of the cosmic horror that people use, the notion of it is supposed to be this fear of like a larger unknown, or one of the big themes of it is this vast, unknowable threat that is so much bigger than you. And I was always bothered by things like Cthulhu, because I had a trouble taking an unknowable threat that had a plushie I could buy seriously. It was too easy to identify. He was too easy to minimize. And once you start thinking in that direction about the things that really make you scared, there's a movie called In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah.
Which I'm a really big fan of. And one of the things I love about it is that it hits all those notes, and it does it in a way that I feel like that's the horror I want to feel when I'm watching one of these, or reading one of these stories, or watching one of these films. And so it began with, because Chris was so helpful in that original run, and it started with that conversation of what is it that really makes these stories work? What is it that doesn't work? What are the things that we don't like about this genre, especially since it's a genre that is stuck in itself in sort of a similar way that fantasy is, or has been for so long, where everything is a derivative of Lord of the Rings, and it's hard to get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it either becomes uncomfortable trying to get away from that DNA, or it just goes too far off. And but no one's really kicking this one around as much as people are trying to play around with fantasy. So it seemed like a good opportunity to start looking at how to do that. And there was iteration. I mean, we played with this. This is what we did instead of learning how to bake bread over COVID, is just iterate what it was that made this type of horror work, and could you bring it to the table? And then the things that we wanted to add to it, and the things that, and to say it's been through iterations and it's been through experimentation is that is a gentle assessment.
So
but yeah,
that leads into my follow-up question. Candela, with this chapter, by the end of this chapter, Candela Obscura will be a year old, technically, in terms of the official release date. So how do you feel that the first year of Candela Obscura has gone as kind of, the co-creator and, one of the faces of this franchise?
Wow, I hadn't thought about that. A year? Oh,
yeah. At the end of this chapter, it'll be a year.
I don't like that. That year felt like a lot. I'm very excited for this chapter. And not just because I'm in it. This is, oh boy, how to put this. I've really enjoyed watching us establish the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really enjoyed watching this world's rules get established. And I'm so excited to now spend the next year kind of breaking them, is what I would say. I've really enjoyed where we're going, and I'm really excited. That's kind of the fun of a story like this. Is it feels like you know the place, and now I'm glad that we've been able to bring everybody in and show them all these little corners of it. Especially, I love anthology so much. Mm-hmm. And it's always been my dream. I mean, that's one of the things tabletop is great for, is just to like tell a little story in this place, move on. And this will be the first story that like a few things start to break, and I'm very excited.
Oh, okay.
Not to hint out, like it's not big, but we're like now that we've established what Candela looks like, we can start to play around a little bit. So that's where I'm at a year. Is I'm excited now that we've gotten to tell an audience what Candela is. We can start telling them what the other side of the coin looks like, and where things and start taking advantage of taking some of the things that exist in this world to terrible conclusions.
Oh, that sounds dreadful and amazing.
I'm very excited. This game is a lot of fun.
That leads to a great follow-up question again, which is what made you decide that this chapter would be the one that you would jump into? You know, you've been the face of the show because you literally do the narration. We see you every episode, but this is the first one that we get to see you as a player. Why this chapter? I
blame Liam. It was one of those things where while it was offered and I could have said no. And it was like, this is an interesting, like, as they were kind of figuring out who was going to be in this one. And I know Liam's brain, and I love being in there, especially when it's dark. And there was talk of whether or not, there's always been talk of when the narrator, so to speak, is going to become part of the put into the story arc, and actually like people will get a sense of where he actually sits in the story. And this was definitely not that moment. I was like, no, it was very too soon, but it was like, I'm not going to have a ton of options going forward to play a character that isn't him, just because I feel like once I start establishing him in the game, it's going to be tough to get away from that. And this was a place to also get people used to the idea that just because you're playing one character in this world doesn't mean you can't play two or three. I love, like, we can kind of do the ensemble a little bit. Mm-hmm. And it felt like a nice soft way to do that, because I hadn't really appeared yet in the game, and it just seemed fun to me. And then I found out who the cast was, the rest of them. I'm like, I have to yes. Too many people I like at the table. Not that I like everybody, but you know, it was a couple special ones.
So I do want to touch on Liam for a second, because he always tends to play the tragic characters, but I think that people forget he has a pretty deep love of horror, because he runs a Curse of Strahd campaign at home, or at least he used to. Was there anything particularly surprising that he did at the table, or something that particularly creeped you out or surprised you during this chapter?
Oh, no. Yes. So where I will leave it. There are, especially, like, one is a wonderful setup, and there are things in two, and like each, oh man, there are things in two that I cannot wait for people to see. And there are things in three his brain is so fascinating, and I really enjoy spending time, especially in the even the worst of it. And he had briefly, like, we had brief conversations about, like, as he was learning about the world and of kind of the things that interested him in this place. And I was really interested to see what his swing with this was going to be. And he did the thing I feel like I love most about the story coming up is how much he really allowed himself to be informed by the characters that we brought to the table. And that was actually, I think, probably my favorite thing is feeling like I felt that I had been listened to and that he had invested in who I was and who the rest of us were at the table.
So let's talk a little bit about your character, Leo. So who is he, and what are some of the circumstances that he finds himself in as this chapter opens?
Oh boy, poor Leo. I love Leo. If I get to, I'm interesting that he ended up here. Leo is a professional man of leisure, more or less. He has money, and he lives in the Red Lamp District, kind of this seedy, wonderful, artsy, creative chunk of the city. And he's soft and he's charming and vivacious and social and strangely alone. And I can't talk to exactly what happened or why, but he has a wonderful and sort of eclectic collection of interesting objects. He's one of those people whose houses are full of, I mean, you see where I'm sitting right now, but a little less chaotic. And some of that stuff is clearly odd. Some of it is things that clearly point to the fact that he is part of Candela because he does have this knack for finding things and an eye for antiques that may be cursed, etc. But he is a very charming and social and socially clever, a confirmed bachelor, I suppose. He is a very specific type of person who doesn't really exist as far as I know these days. So
so he's the background that you chose for him, or like kind of the character class. He's a journalist, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the journalist class. Sometimes if you don't see exactly what it is that you want to pull together, and I really wanted to go for a socialite, you go in and you look at the math. You go in and see the bones of the house to see what you can strip down and rebuild. And journalists really fit well for that kind of character class. Most games, if you don't see it in the book, you can either reskin it or put it together. And I'm sure everyone's mildly irritated by my joy of, can you make me an original character class? I want my own subclass, Matt, please.
I mean, at this point in time, I just expect it from,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I try. It's what I get. I come up with my idea and then I'm like, can the math do this? I'm like, well, they haven't done it yet. Shit. But that seemed to be the best way to build the socialite. And it will come up later in the game. I feel like it really did its job on that level.
Okay.
It gave me all the tools I needed. So.
So I did want to talk a little bit. This video is going to come up after the first episode airs, and I did want to talk about the in media race moment that the episode opens in, because I one of the things I loved about how this chapter opened is the mission, so to speak, was completed. You retrieve the cursed artifact, you're bringing it home, and then all hell breaks loose. Did that throw you for a loop at all? How did you feel? Were you expecting that you were going to come in and it's like, okay, you've completed the mission and now shit's going sideways?
No, not even a little. Excuse me. It was very shocking, and or at least to me. And I love that we were thrown that way into the deep end, especially since even as we were kind of creating this circle, we kind of figured out this was a very different. This was not necessarily a circle of action. If that tracks, we are very much. I felt like we had kind of created a more of a day-to-day group of people, other than Amari, who's clearly I'm keeping all these people, like, who's there to kind of be the one emergency emergency I'm together person.
Yeah.
So also clearly so crazy that he, made sense with us as well. Yes, that was not. I was expecting a slow burn, not an explosion.
Yeah, I absolutely loved, when you were talking about how, the chapters, you guys have like built up a framework for how these chapters go. I love that Liam just like opened it up and it's like, okay, well, here's here's chaos. Let's see what you guys do. And did you feel that the events of the first episode kind of really set the tone for what's about to happen to all of your poor characters?
Oh boy. It definitely, that's such an interesting question. Because the tone doesn't necessarily shift, but it definitely set our expectations and set our compasses for exactly how dangerous the world was going to be and how we were going to be getting into something very intense and very, very much beyond us. And it also really, really set up the relationship that this group had with Candela, which I quite enjoyed. And that relationship develops of exactly what we mean to the organization, for good or ill. But I really loved it because immediately we got a sense of what these people are like under stress and strain, which we didn't know about each other yet, just as players.
Oh, wow.
Decisions, I mean, getting thrown immediately into a more or less what is the equivalent of a battle. And in Candela, there is no battle. There is just hold on and really hope your character doesn't die in the first 10 minutes. It really seeing everybody's panic state was really interesting.
Yeah.
Immediately.
So changing gears just a little bit.
Yes.
What part of the Candela Obscura lore are you excited about, like, diving into with this chapter? Or, what parts of the world, were you hoping to like delve into when you sat down at the table?
Oh, never my decision. I really do enjoy the Red Lamp district quite a bit. I love the sections of this story that kind of have that Art Nouveau romantic energy. I think that horror and romance go together very, very well, and like not even necessarily in the more in the traditional notion of being, the broad strokes of love and delight and the ways that people relate to the world and each other. And horror is so good for that. And I trust Liam to do these things. There are other sections. I mean, it was his story to tell, and I love my character. And spoilers. I suppose what I will say is he started to flesh out the realities of a group like Candela, which was always what I was looking forward to, is starting to look at the how this would shape the world and how this relates to ordinary people or to the people who work within it. And I'm trying to be super vague. And what that implies, and when you take that to its logical conclusion, how strange that gets. And setting up, and in turn, I hope that that's going to set up several stories that I'm looking forward to telling, either through other people or myself at some point, of the other end of things and the sorts of weird corners of this world that exist, and very much in the cosmic horror sense of things, there will always be another dark shadowed corner that we do not get to enter.
So I want to end this part of the interview with two more questions, one looking back and one looking forward. Looking back, what has been your favorite moment in some of the previous chapters of Candela Obscura?
Oh, man. Oh, God. Oh, you're going to make me do this.
Yeah, I am.
So broken. Oh. I'm trying to remember which things actually aired and which didn't. I mean, like, because we did test games.
Yeah.
I watched a bunch of the test games, so I'm trying to remember which ones actually hit. Oh, man, everything Brendan did. That's not fair. Honestly, Ashley's decision to play young and I mean, trying to hit one moment of that. Oh, the fire with yeah, it's so many. I'm going to go with Ashley. Ashley's kid, and letting that build. I was not expecting it, and I loved every minute of that decision. Yeah, that's the one I'm going to go. I know that's kind of broad, but that surprised me.
No, that's great. And looking ahead, what will the next year bring to Candela Obscura?
Oof. I mean, nobody knows. That's kind of the fun of it. That is a question. Yeah, I would say what dark corners I'm excited about, but that would be telling. There are things even before the game looked this way. There are little bits of this world that were set up that I put there to get to a little later, and before the Fairlands even existed. I'm excited to start prodding those little chunks of lore.
Okay. Well, I can't wait either. Like the lore of Candela Obscura is like one of my favorite parts about the show and about the world. I love the Fairlands, and I love digging into your guys' take on cosmic horror. So it's all very exciting.
Oh, thank you. And no one's seen we haven't even talked about the Crimson Mirror yet, have we, in the show?
No, we've barely talked about the Crimson Mirror yet. I was about to say we haven't even touched on that. We've just been chilling. Well, let's talk. I guess I should ask, what is the Crimson Mirror? What
mirror. If you look very close, you've already seen it, is what I will say. Quietly, and is all I will say is people who are paying attention have may know, or may at least have an inkling.
Okay.
But, yeah.
No, that's what I like to hear. It's really obvious that the you guys over the first 3 chapters, you've set the table, and now it's really fun to see what the world looks like and how it grows and builds from there. That's one of the more exciting parts about the show, is seeing how it continues to grow and evolve, beyond just short horrific tales. So I can't wait to see what happens next. So before we let you go, I'm going to bring in our producer Pete, and he has some lightning round questions. This is always a fan favorite part. Some multiple choice questions, some fun bits. So Pete, come on down.
All right. So a little lightning round action here. I'll start us off with a personal theory of mine, and that is Candela secretly a Bruce Lee Game of Death situation where we, the audience, have to fight our way through different levels of emotional gut punches from all the other GMs until the series finally ends, when we reach you, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, at the top of this mental damage pagoda?
Oh, it's gut punches all the way down. There is no bottom to that hill. So this isn't Tetris where there's an end to it somewhere at the end. Oh yeah, it's just an infinite drop of gut punches. So yes and no is what I was supposed to say. No one's ever, we haven't found the bottom yet.
Oh, excellent. So next up, you've had a lot of iconic roles in games and anime and live action. So which of these past roles do you think would be the best fit in Candela Obscura? We've got Adolf Junkers from Monster.
Yeah.
We've got Fred Agul from Black Cat. We've got Basil Hawkins from One Piece. We've got scrappy youngster Ludwig Mueller from The Explorers.
Oh, wow.
And perhaps the most dangerous of them all, Dennis the Strawberry.
Wow. Okay. I'm just like, did my friends put you up to this with Dennis? Okay.
But imagine that, and not to spoil your decision, but imagine if Dennis dies. Oh. And then his final words can just be, "I'm giving up showbiz." And he just,
I can't believe it, is what he would. No. Definitely Dennis, because there's something, thanks to Willy Wonka, there's something horrifying about a child being merged with fruit.
It's true, yeah.
If you've ever seen The Adventures of Young Sherlock Holmes, that was, speaking of cosmic horror, being attacked by living pastries. Actually, that is a horror. Dennis could become a absolute horror show so easily.
It also kind of sounds like a Cockney tough guy name. Like, I was like, oh, you don't want to mess with Dennis the Strawberry. Yeah.
It's Dennis the Strawberry. Oh,
Yeah, it's a strawberry out here. All right. So another quick fun one. So you've just described Leo right now as charming and oddly alone, with a collection of oddities, a gentleman of leisure that wears expensive red robes and doesn't really exist. Was the style guide for Leo Christopher Walken as a Continental?
Oh, no. Although you're definitely pulling into the right direction. There were a couple people. I'm trying to think, because we kind of thinned it down. It was a longer list by the end of it. It was a little bit of young Vincent Price.
Okay.
And then a touch of Roddy McDowall, specifically Fright Night. Roddy McDowall was very, very much.
Nice.
Peter from from Fright Night and Fright Night 2. Fright Night 2 especially, which no one has seen. I love that movie. That was a very specific point of reference.
Nice. And I'll say Leo also joins the rank of what I like to call fancy investigators. So on the scale of fanciness for fancy investigators, with Jake Peralta from Brooklyn Nine-Nine being a 1, Benoit Blanc being like a 5.5, and all but the top you have Hercule Poirot being a 10. Where does Leo slot in the fanciness scale?
Oh God, 11, because 12 is gauche.
I like it. Oh, perfect.
Thank you.
We'll throw in a little, speaking of your friends, Travis has spoken several times on the show that he's shocked that Chetney's still alive, the brief critical role aside. But as the original Blood Hunter player, and knowing that Travis is just really seeming to be wanting Chetney to pass away.
Snap my neck. Snap my neck.
Snap my neck.
Have you ever considered arranging an off-screen accent for Chetney, just so Molly could have kept the record of the most powerful Blood Hunter in history?
Now I'm feeling bad. Man, no. At best, I've just like occasionally been like, maybe I'm going to be the person to give Chetney a weird little gift instead of him giving everybody gifts. And then I spend a game playing with Chetney, like, no, never mind. I'm just going to let him like pass peacefully and just sleep one of these days.
All right. Yeah. 2 last questions. The first one is,
yes, please.
Which of the following could be the name for Candela Chapter 5? A couple options. The first one is Candela Obscura Chapter 5, Circle of Stars and Lanterns. Pretty classic. The second one, more of a cross-branding opportunity, Candela Obscura Chapter 5, The Circle of K. The next one, Candela Obscura Chapter 5, The Perfect Circle, with guest Jim Maynard James Keenan. And then the final one is Candela Obscura Chapter 5, The Search for Curly's Gold.
Oh, wow. And thank you for making me feel very old with that last one. Actually, I mean, like, jokes aside, actually, Stars and Lantern kind of hits some of the stuff that I'm thinking about running when I eventually get my little arc finished.
Let me make it to the top of the Game of Death Pagoda.
I mean, it is
Taliesin.
it's pretty solid for some of the themes of that story, is what I will say. Actually, that's very interesting.
Yeah, weirdly, that was way harder to come up with than the funny ones.
that sounds about right.
All right. The last question is, Candela Obscura Chapter 4 continues the grand tradition of bringing back incredibly dangerous cargo on an old-timey ship. It's a grand horror tradition. Just sort of make an insane decision, put a terrible thing on a ship. But which of these following insane boat movies is actually a fake? So which of these is not a real insane boat movie? The Final Countdown. A modern American aircraft carrier is sent back in time to stop Pearl Harbor. Blood Vessel. Shipwreck survivors are taken aboard a German boat infested with vampires in the midst of World War II. Cruise into Terror. A luxury cruise ship sets sail with an Egyptian sarcophagus on board, only to discover the Egyptian sarcophagus actually contains the son of Satan. Or The Penultimate Voyage of the Demeter, where the crew of the Demeter realizes halfway across the Atlantic they forgot to load Dracula's casket on board and just head back into port.
I'm going to go with the first one, actually.
Oh, weirdly enough, The Final Countdown is a real 1980s action sci-fi movie, and The Penultimate Voyage of the Demeter is one that I'd made up.
I was just, it seems so insane that I was like, somebody started a Dracula movie and ran out of money. Clearly, that had to happen.
Yeah, very like an Ed Wood style Dracula.
Yeah, it literally just turned it into a slapstick. Man,
Right.
that's crazy. I thought
But
the pirate movie would be in there, but very well.
I thought about it, yeah. But yeah,
Weirdly
thank
enough,
you for a lightning round. You've survived the lightning round.
Weirdly
Oh,
enough,
that's
I've
fun.
seen Cruise into Terror.
Cruise into Terror is hilarious.
Yes.
Oh no!
Because isn't it, why no one knows why the son of the Western religion Satan would be in an Egyptian sarcophagus, but apparently he is. He's just hanging out on a cruise ship.
I love weird horror. I gotta dig that one up.
So before we end this video, I always like to give folks a chance to basically give a final pitch on, what they came to talk about. So any final words for the audience for this chapter of Candela Obscura?
Or to tease ahead chapter 2.
Or yeah.
Oh, to tease ahead chapter 2. Our wonderful, I hesitate to call them adventurers, our odd little family, they have a history and they may have to delve into it a bit. And and no one likes being in peril. Beyond that, I don't know what else to say about it without giving away. I suppose the last thing I would say is all of my favorite horror stories and games that I get to tell are always, I always find the best moments by thinking about the things that scare me and then thinking how wonderful it would be if the rest of my friends were horrified of them as well. So sharing your nightmares is always and phobias. That's all I'm here for. So I want everyone else to be terrified of what I'm terrified of.
I think that's a perfect way to end this interview. Thank you so much, Taliesin. This was an absolute blast.
Thank you.
To get to pick your brain for a bit.
It's so much fun, and I'm so excited for 2 more episodes of this. I'm so happy with this run of 3 episodes. I can't wait.
Candela Obscura airs on Critical Role's YouTube and Twitch channels the last Thursday of the month, or the 4th Thursday of the month, I suppose is more accurate, because sometimes there's five Thursdays in there. So with VOD appearing the following Monday on YouTube. So be sure to check it out. The great thing about Candela Obscura is you don't need to watch past chapters to enjoy the story. That is the joy of a horror anthology series. You can just jump into it and be scared out of your wits every 3 months. So be sure to check it out if you haven't already. Thank you once again, Taliesin. I guess we'll end this with the usual YouTube thing of be sure to like and subscribe and comment and all the things that we have to do to keep the lights on. So thank you.